Hi, this is Alex Fryer reporting live for WBBA TV at LSINW. With us today is Bridgette Hempstead, founder and CEO of Cierra Sisters. Thanks for being with us this afternoon.
Thank you for having me.
Cierra Sisters is an African-American breast cancer support organization. I wonder if you could tell us a little bit about the organization and how you got started.
So I got started after my diagnosis of breast cancer on my 35th birthday. And what was happening is that my doctors were seeing that I had an incredible way of dealing with it. And so the questions asked was, Bridgette, would you talk to some of our other patients? They're having a hard time. They're not understanding what's going on with them. And so that's how it started. So the women start coming. It began to become too much, one-on-one. And so we start meeting in Starbucks. And then we've grown from Starbucks to Rainier Beach Community Center.
And you see patients and people from all over the country and maybe even all over the world as well who are seeking your advice and counsel.
That's true. That has happened.
Now, so what are the typical questions that people want to ask when they come to you for advice?
It depends on what they're coming for. If they're coming to want to start an organization in their city or in their country, then they're coming for that type of advice, how to build that particular resource for them. Most of the people that come to me are someone who's been diagnosed or before their diagnosis or someone in their family diagnosed or wanting to get family counseling so they can get a clear understanding of what the doctors are talking about and so that they can get evidence-based information so that they can make a clear decision on what their treatment options are.
Are there things that are particular to the African-American community that African-American women would need to know specifically about breast cancer? Absolutely.
First of all, we've got an alarming rate of women that are not surviving breast cancer. So the problem is late stage diagnosis. So the communications that we are making sure that we're getting out there to the community is what are the signs, what are the symptoms, and if you feel like there's something going on, how can you advocate for yourself or grab someone from Cierra Sisters to advocate for you so that you can at least get diagnosed.
Where do you see some of the future progression of Cierra Sisters? Where do you want to be a year from now, 5 years from now?
A year from now, I want to make sure that our women are equipped that they can go out and educate the community. So that way we're duplicating the efforts that we're doing in a very effective way, an approved way, and that these women will have the resources, their families will have the resources, the men will have the resources on what to do if they ever come across the fact of getting diagnosed with breast cancer. Second of all, we want to make sure that we're putting the myths to side. There's so many myths behind breast cancer that the fear factor will stop someone from getting an exam because they're believing that the exam is the thing that's causing the breast cancer. So we want to deal with that. We want to deal with the fact that, people are saying, well, maybe it's the deodorant, maybe it's the machine, maybe it's having the surgery. And really those are not the best information to get. And then we're dealing with, cultural differences. So we want to make sure that we are giving information in a respectful way.
And you mentioned public education as being such an important part of what you do. Tell me a little bit about the partnerships that you have here in Seattle-King County that help you get that public education message out.
So we partner with King County Public Health and of course the Hutch and Seattle Cancer Care Alliance, Swedish Hospital, and some of the other hospitals around University School of Nursing. So when you have those type of partnerships, and then we have partnerships with the hospitals, I'm sorry, not the hospitals, we already said that, with churches, community centers, schools, so that way we're making sure that we're hitting every aspect of life.
Yeah, so some people will come to you via their church, some folks will come to you via the community or their doctor, their schools, all to try to get some good advice on sort of how to deal with some of the health problems that they're coping with.
Facing. And then we're dealing with other cultures. We're getting ready to launch a SEPS program, which we have the Somalian community that we'll be doing a great outreach to, as well as all the other communities that we're reaching out to.
What are some of the special challenges you think are you facing with the immigrant community, like the Somali community?
Well, they're very private. The women can be somewhat shy, and if they go to a doctor, it definitely has to be a female doctor. So there's some barriers about even, their body, being able to touch their bodies and different things like that. So we want to make sure that we are being respectful of their belief system, but making sure that they're getting the right information so that they can still advocate for themselves. And if there happens to be a diagnosis, that is diagnosed early.
Yeah, I think early diagnosis sounds like one of the key things that you're really working with on.
Absolutely.
How do you get that message to people who don't or aren't aware of breast cancer? That's not on their radar screen. How do you reach those kinds of folks to make sure that they're coming into your organization?
So if we have enough people out there sharing the same evidence-based information, it's going to get out there. Unfortunately, sometimes when the women hear this information, they're still afraid. And we still have casualties because this is truly an incredible war, not one like we have over in Iraq and other countries, but it is such a devastating impact when someone says, oh my goodness, I went to my doctor 3 years ago, presented these symptoms, and he said, don't worry about it because one, that your nationality, 2, your age, 3, you don't have to worry about it because it doesn't really hit your community. Those are the things that has happened. So I think not only educating the community, but there has to be a great effort to educate our doctors on how to communicate with us.
And what do you think the role of men is in this conversation? It's not just a women's disease; it affects men and families as well. How do you work with them in your organization?
So when we talk with the men, and we've actually had a man that had breast cancer in our organization. He was diagnosed late stage diagnosis, and he had a growth on his chest. And he called and he says, you know, Bridgette, I've got this growth. What is it? I said, I don't know what it is, but it doesn't sound good. We were able to get him in. He was tested with breast cancer, and we're able to successfully get him into a clinical trial. He lived 5 years longer than expected, but it was a shock to him. He says, you know, I didn't think that I would be sitting here in a room of women that are coming in getting treatment for breast cancer, but I'm here getting the treatment as well. So he wanted to make sure that his voice was heard, and he's a Cierra brother, now deceased, but making a difference. So we want to make sure that even in men that you get checked, and a lot of men end up finding their wives or their partner's breast cancer because of the breast, the intimacy that's between the two. So I think giving that knowledge to the men about breast cancer can make a difference with their wives, with their daughters, with their sisters, within their own community. So if the men are aware what's going on with the women's body, is going to make a difference in how we survive this disease.
And hope is such an important part
Absolutely.
of the message.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Bridgette, thank you so much for coming in.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate your time.
I appreciate you. You're awesome.
And stay tuned for more interviews here at LSINW. Thank you.